Welcome to the Once Upon an Island podcast, number 2 on the charts, number 1 in your hearts. I'm your host, Wesley, and of course, I am joined by my lovely co-host,
Mary.
And today, we're talking about Survivor 47, episode 8, updating the winter analysis. Brand new winter analysis, Mary. And I mean brand new. I have had a night to sleep on what happened yesterday. People heard my reaction to the big blind side for us. Some people were like, oh, I knew it was coming the whole time. For me, big blind side. What about for you, Mary?
I feel like I should have known. But yeah, this episode definitely shook things up for me as well, as far as my rankings and my thoughts on everything. I don't know. Like, it seems so obvious in retrospect that Sam and Sierra, and we talked about how they're such a power couple and they're going to be a big threat. But yeah, I was a little surprised still to see them being basically the first couple broken up in this.
It seemed like they were going to target each other, not that necessarily somebody else was going to be their undoing.
I was expecting a ramp up of a battle between Sierra and Sam, or, I guess Andy did kind of take out Sierra in this episode. But anyways, yeah, it was a good episode. I was surprised. And even though I did have Sierra very high up in my rankings, I'm happy with how it went because like we've talked about, we like being surprised by the episode. So overall, I thought it was a really good one.
True. I love being surprised. It's even more. I love being surprised. I love when we're halfway through a season, which is so rare, by the way, in the history of this podcast, to go halfway through a season and then be surprised by our winner pick going or not, like, oh, it turns out we were bamboozled. My winner pick was the first one on the jury. So It's kind of like I got to revert back to who was my winner pick before. Who's been my winner pick since I think week 2, maybe week 1, I forgot. Week 1. But other than that, like I am ready to upend my rankings completely, and I'll explain it as we go. But I really today, Mary, would like to focus on everybody's path to winning. We haven't really talked about that, but I feel like as we've gotten 3 weeks into the merge, believe it or not, we have a good idea of how everyone has to reach the end, though things, of course, could change, but how we see everyone's path to the end if they are to win. What are their odds? What are the chances? How are they going to get there? And who do they have to sit next to? We'll talk about that, everyone in alphabetical order. Of course, chapter markers here on YouTube. The chart in the top right-hand screen is the confessional counter. It shows you who is in the game still, of course, how many confessionals they've had. And it shows you who's been eliminated, but we're not really going to talk about that as much. But we'll definitely talk about who's still in the game, of course. And the people have asked about the colors, Mary. I thought it was self-explanatory that it's what tribes they were on in that episode, but that's what that means. Don't feel dumb. We all have to learn. Even I had to learn. Some of this edgic stuff, when I learned about it, I was like, what do all these letters mean? So you're not alone.
Also, it's confusing when you have things like the weird...
A life outside of this podcast.
No, well, yes. I was talking about like when they randomly they do their merge, but then they're still divided into 2 teams. And
like how is Rome purple?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Why is Kyle the only purple on episode 6? It's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And I didn't make the chart. That's why I leave the handle there, just strategic. That's the person who makes it, and they're on, I believe, Twitter. I don't know if they're in other locations. That's where we go to get it. So, all right. Let's talk about our fantasy teams real quick, Mary. Gabe is the only person on my fantasy team. I did not put any votes on Sierra. So my team took a hit this week in their rankings. As you can see here on screen for groups 1 and groups 2. Whoever wins, by the way, the overall between both groups gets to pick any story video for me to make. The first and second place people also get a copy of the game Castaways. I have to mention that because it is a prize that the person is graciously giving away for free. So
awesome.
Got to mention it. All right, Mary. So how are you looking?
Honestly, we didn't do so bad. I think everyone did badly this week in the fantasy league. I'm 9th, which I think is I moved up.
I think you did too.
Yeah.
Or at least you're above me. Where am I at?
14th in our group. So
yeah, I've moved down.
So, but still not too bad. Not too shabby. But I have been like below 20 this whole time until the last couple episodes for some reason.
I'm glad my winner pick I picked on there. I switched from Saul to Teeny, which I still feel better about Teeny than Saul, by the way. I know Saul has moved up in the world, but I'm glad I put Teeny instead of Saul. I almost put Sierra. I was like, I don't want to lose more points. What if I'm wrong?
Right.
So I left it on Teeny and I was like, all right, I'll run the roll the dice. And sure enough, it looks like Teeny's still in the, she is still in the game.
Still
clearly has a better chance than Sierra, so I didn't get burned by that. But I kind of knew it was game over once Annika went out so early, and I'm like, Gabe isn't winning. Gabe is my other player on my team. Who's on your team? I know you got Rachel.
I have
Your
Rachel,
doppelganger.
Rachel and Saul.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, it's
Saul.
not.
Who's targeting Saul?
Right.
Yeah.
I must have had good points. I thought it was very ironic though that I voted 5 points on Kyle and 5 points on Sue this week to go home. And they were the two that won immunity. So,
Rome's not purple anymore. Rome got relisted to blue. Okay, good. I think a week or two ago, Rome was purple and people were confused. And I'm like, I'm confused. So
there's a small purple dot over on the very left of
Rome.
Yeah, in that square, which I thought maybe that's when the merge started.
He did make it to the merge story episode. He just didn't make the merge.
So I think that's what that means.
I think that's what that means too. All right. Well, let's go through everyone alphabetically. We will put our rankings in the description for those who want to look at it visually with their own eyeballs. But otherwise, I don't know about you, Mary, but my ranking is about to take a big upheaval.
Mine definitely, we had a few switcheroos.
All right, Mary. I already know who our first player is, but go ahead and introduce them.
Our first player is Andy. He had 2 confessionals this week, and he has a total of 35.
Dang you, Andy. Don't you want my fantasy team to win, or my rankings to be right? That's his top concern out there on the island.
Oh, yeah. He's very concerned about that. Mm-hmm.
Andy, how many confessionals again?
He had 2 this week with a total of 35.
Right. Andy seems to be getting the heroic growth arc storyline that someone like an Emily got in 45. But I kind of talked about this yesterday with Rebecca, and I'll get your thoughts, Mary. In my mind, whereas Emily got that storyline, it felt like Emily actually grew as a person that season and changed for the better. To me, it feels like Andy's the same person he was day one, but the storyline has been edited to make him look better, if that makes sense. Sort of like Rupert and Pearl Islands. Like, was he really a hero, or is the storyline just pushing that narrative?
Right. Yeah, I think that. So what were his big downfalls in episode 1? It was basically the emotional, social lack of intelligence that he had, and also just struggling to fit in with his tribe. I guess that's the same thing.
When he opened coconuts.
Yeah. So
he blew up in front of everybody at the immunity challenge.
While I don't think that he has grown that much in his emotional social quotient, I think that he has grown in maybe how he's handling that. So even though he's feeling outcast by Sam and Sierra, instead of sitting and pouting about it or crying about it or, not participating in the challenge because what's the point? He's actually doing something about it. So yeah, he's
not sitting on his hands.
Yes. There is, he's taking a step. There is a growth. Is it as much as Emily made? Like, she made an almost complete personality change in the way she interacted with people. And that's really difficult to do. So Sam's not necessarily changing how he's interacting with people around him. He's changing how he's handling himself, which I think is the first step and the most important step, because that's where you get started.
To me, with Emily, it's more like it's not that she changed in terms of like a 180. I think her mindset changed about how she looked at things. And therefore her as a person seemed to have grown as a result of, okay, instead of looking at things so negatively, I need to be more positive because the negativity is weighing on everybody around me, and it almost got me voted off if Hannah didn't quit. Whereas Andy's like, okay, these people are out to screw me. Time to get them out. And this is Mary. Yeah. If you think about it, anyone who's aligned with Andy has gotten flipped on. What did Sam and Sierra actually do? Well, they failed, and this is a failure on both their parts. We'll talk about Sam when we get to him. They both failed to make him feel like he was truly their number 3. Like he was truly final 3 with them. Yes. That is a failure on their parts. They failed to do that. That is important. That's a reason why they're in the position they are. They chose to take out him over Annika. They chose to take out Annika over him. So if you think about it on paper, it's like, okay, they decided to align and stick with Andy and vote out John. They decided to stick with Andy and vote out Annika. They decided to stick with Andy and say, hey, let's vote off Gabe this episode. What does Andy do? Stabs them in the back. Why? Because he doesn't feel like, and his feelings are what the storyline is telling us is the most important thing, not the facts of 3 tribal councils. They've wanted to work with him and stick with him and have no plans to flip on Andy. It is a forced confessional that came out of Sierra's mouth. It was like 4 or 5 different confessionals they cut together to have her say that Andy's expendable. Like right before Andy's like, hey, who are we voting off? She's like, we decided Gabe. Like that was a very cut together conversation as well. Mary's giving me a look, which means she disagrees. Go ahead. That's fine. But I think it's what the storyline is trying to present something that I don't think is as truthful. But the storyline is what we're here to analyze.
Right. So I see what you're saying, but at the same time, and yeah, that conversation by Sierra could have been cut together to be more brusque than it was. But again, at the same time, it really did feel like every single vote, he's just being told what to do. He's never asked, well, what's your opinion about this? Or what do you think about this? or is this a good idea? Because they don't care. All they want him to do is be on their side and be a vote for them.
I mean, what times have they been able to ask him that? The Annika vote, it was either him or Annika. Was he going to pick himself?
It wasn't him or Annika. There are more than one people in their little alliance of Sam, Sierra, and Andy.
Yeah.
They could have taken out Annika or Rachel. Obviously, the real answer is it's Annika or Andy, but it doesn't matter. You have to at least pretend like, hey, your opinion matters.
You're saying they didn't do a good job enough of pretending to care about his opinion.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And so again, at the beach, hey, I haven't heard anything. I feel left out of the loop. Already, we have an issue here.
Right.
Who are we voting for? We're voting for Gabe. Are you locked in? Are you with us?
Yeah.
It's I'm sure they're cut down sentences
totally cut down,
between that.
Yeah.
But and Sierra's a very direct person, which that works really well with some people, but with Andy, it doesn't.
Right. With me, that would work really well.
Yes.
I don't want the fluff.
Right. Andy needed to be like, oh, I'm so sorry you're feeling left out. What do you think who do you think we should vote for? Da, 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 da. And make him feel like he's a part of the alliance. It doesn't, and I had to say that, like, I want people to be loved and to feel included. And like, it hurts my heart to see Andy so not included. But at the same time, I understand he has issues that he needs to work on himself to make it easier
Dude's
for him.
in his 30s.
Yes, I understand that. But like, if you're playing Survivor and you're working with someone like an Andy who has emotional social problems, you've got to baby them a little bit.
Yeah.
And
baby maybe not be the right word. You have to be more emotionally aware of them.
Yes.
If you want to get really like,
sure.
Like, not like judge Andy. When I say Andy's in his 30s, I mean, like, this is not quite what I expect emotionally from somebody who is 30, which means Andy has, I can't say personal problems, but Andy has growth, an actual growth, not Survivor storyline growth that you would hope would have taken place before this, but you got to deal with the situation you're in. And you got Andy who seems emotionally vulnerable. You do have to not baby him, but definitely make him do extra work to make him feel included.
Right.
Where you may not have to do that with someone else. Someone else, is already like, I'm already here. Like, we're good. Like, I know what we're talking about.
I guess, again, we're talking about the world of Survivor, and we've talked about so often how when you get to the final 3 and how you address the jury, what do they want you to hear? It's the same in your alliance. If you pick people and these are the people you want to work with, you have to know how they want to be treated. You have to know how to handle them and talk to them and work with them so that they will stay loyal to you. Otherwise, they're just going to do what Andy does.
Sam and Sierra failed to recognize and adapt to what Andy needed emotionally. Yes. And it has burned them both.
You see that a lot of times in Survivor. It's not just Andy. There's been other times where the person who flipped, it's almost always a personal reason. Oh, yeah.
Most of the time. It's actually easier to convince somebody to emotionally flip on their alliance than it is to strategically flip. It's like pulling teeth to be like, look, strategically, you're in a bad spot. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, because you need to give them the emotional reason. Right. Even for people who are all strategy, it's like, yeah, but they still need an emotional reason to flip. It's actually, I feel like personally, it's easier to get somebody to flip if they're emotional about it than if they're just thinking strategically. Right. But it does depend person to person. Now let's talk about Andy's path to winning, because while we've talked about what Sam and Sierra did wrong and how we feel like, a storyline is favoring Andy. Well, that's important. The storyline's favoring Andy. And for his winner chances here, that's pretty good. However, my concern, Mary, is that he is flipping on his alliance. I don't know if Rachel's going to feel burned by Andy. She was never really with Andy. But Sam and Sierra, they both go to the jury. They're going to badmouth Andy on the jury. Yeah. I don't foresee a world where these two are like, oh yeah, Andy's great, vote for Andy. So that's 2 votes that if Andy reaches final 3, that he loses out of, I think, 8 people on the jury. If my math is right. We're down to 11 people as of last night. And the first person went to the jury. That's 8 people on the jury. So that's 2 out of 8 that he's lost. And now if those 2 get any sway and they're like, hey, Andy did literally nothing. Like Andy was this, like they can talk down Andy's game. That could convince people. Give people emotional reasons to be like, you know what? Andy does kind of suck. And that happens all the time on Ponderosa. Like people lose votes by the jury talking smack about them. That's why you have to be careful with how you put people on the jury. It's part of the game. Right. You can't make people go to the jury and be angry at you if they're an influential person or an influential spot. And Sam and Sierra being there, or Sierra at least being on the jury the whole time, is an influential spot. Putting somebody in the jury like the night before Final Tribal is one of the better spots because they've had very little time to convince people who have already been talking and kind of have their minds made up for the most part. Right. What they want to do. somebody coming the day before is not going to have a huge swing, but putting somebody on the jury like this angry in the beginning, it's like, I carried you here. What are you like? That is bad for Andy's game, in my opinion, for his winner chances. I mean, I think he's has potential for final 3, but his final 3 is 0 votes or 1 vote.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that people are likely to bring him with them because he can be loyal. Like, he was really ready to be loyal to Sam and Sierra until he found out they threw his name out there.
Was he though? It seems like he's been ready to flip on them for quite a bit.
I don't think
episodes of him talking about this.
Yeah, because at the pre-merge, you heard that Sam threw out his name.
He was doing it on the journey. When he went on the journey, he's like already working them, and they're like, I'm not close with anybody. I'm ready to be a free agent. So it's was he ever really loyal? That's my point.
Okay.
The journey was like episode 3?
Yeah.
Sorry if I don't remember the exact episode.
We said that was a smart move because you don't want to be perceived to have a tight line.
It is. I'm not saying it isn't, but you're saying he's loyal, and I'm saying proof is in the pudding. He's not loyal.
Think that he is loyal. But anyways.
To who?
He was loyal to Sam and Sierra.
No.
That was the story.
Get out of here.
That wasn't even really the point I was making. It was just that I think that he will be taken farther along. He's not a threat. I don't think people perceive him as a threat. And so therefore, yes, it's very likely that he'll make it to the end. I don't think that anyone probably would vote for him at the end unless they just feel so like he just gets like a really good puppy dog.
Yeah.
Final tribal camp.
We're down to the final 10. Who is the best 2 at the moment for him to sit next to for him to win? By the way, Andy for me, hold on. Andy for me is ranked number 6 before I forget. Where is he for you?
6.
So we're on the same page ranking wise where he is. Okay. So yeah, who's the final 2 he sits next to? And the jury is going to be like Andy. He gets 5 out of 8 on the jury. 4 out of 8 in a weird situation, but 5 out of 8.
Sue is literally the only one I can think of. I can't think of a third person that he could beat.
He can definitely pitch that he has made moves. Now he can, I don't know if he'll be able to pull together Final Tribal to like give off a confident Final Tribal. Maybe he does. I mean, he does it in confessionals where he talks about, I've been planning this from day one. And then in the voting booth, he got cocky when he said the thing in German. So he has it in him, but we haven't seen him do it. I don't know, outside of confessionals. So can he do it in front of a jury of his own peers while all the cameras are watching him, knowing this is Final Tribal Council? I don't know. And also, would anyone believe it or care by the time he reaches Final 3? Yeah, I feel like Sue is a better case than Andy at this point. For a pitch to the jury, not storyline wise. Andy's in a pretty good spot, but the heroic growth arc storyline is not usually the winner.
Yeah, I agree. It's just someone that they feel like, oh, look how Survivor has helped this person, kind of thing. So.
Exactly. Look how they've changed because of Survivor.
Right.
Feels like we get about one of those a season.
No, I agree. So he's 6 for me also, just because like there could be 1 or 2 people, like we've seen little glimpses of him, like you're saying, possibly have the confidence to pull it off, but I just think it's unlikely.
I think he has Final 3 potential, but his winner chances for me are not as high. All right, let's move on to the next player. Okay.
Our next player is Caroline.
Sweet Caroline.
She had 4 confessionals this week with a total of 18.
How many?
18.
That's it for the whole season? Oof.
Yeah.
I will say last night I did push up Caroline to my top 3 and I slept on it and I decided to stick with it. And I'm going to let you explain what you think about Caroline, and I'll give my reasoning for why Caroline has moved up in the world.
I also moved Caroline up. So Sam and Sierra are a package pair. Sierra falls, Sam falls for me. So that kind of shifted everyone up.
Yeah.
But also, so to me, it seemed like Gabe's kind of the ringleader of Tuku. Genevieve is kind of the ringleader of Lavo.
What about Genevieve?
And then Gada is on the downfall because Andy's flipped to whoever.
Yeah, Gada is it's every man for themselves.
Right. So basically everyone from Gada just fell, in my opinion.
So is Sam the glue guy or was Sierra the glue gal?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
So with Caroline, I feel like she's in a good spot because she's not the leader of Tuku at the moment. She doesn't have a threat on her. She's still trying to make moves. So when the original,
so those are all reasons to think that she could go far. There is no target on Caroline.
Right. There's no target on Caroline right now. I've not heard her name at all from anyone. Her content tonight was all positive, and I'll get to that in a minute. But as far as just the strategy that she had this week, when it was brought up, like, hey, let's get Gata out, the first thought is Sam. He's a big threat. He's a big target. Both Genevieve and Caroline, like almost at the same time, said no. It needs
Rachel.
to be. It needs to be Rachel. Yes, they need to be Rachel. I almost said Sierra. Sorry. So, and they were thinking of more of the long term game where Sam can be a shield. They feel like Rachel's playing a really good social game, which I don't think we're seeing that as much. But it just, when you agree almost immediately on a name, it's indicative something's going on.
With two people, especially people who, well, Genevieve's way more important storyline at the moment than Caroline, at least from what we've seen. And when two people like that instantly agree from different tribes, like it's not like Caroline and Sue agreed.
Right.
Caroline and Genevieve agreed.
Right.
What about Genevieve?
So I thought that was important. And even though it didn't go to Rachel tonight, I just feel like they have the pulse on the finger of the game, as we say a lot. And then as far as just her content, she, again, doesn't have a lot, which is why I still haven't, she moved up, but she's not in my top 3.
Right.
Because all as far as just content in the episode was she leads everyone on the field trip to get tree mail. Her confessional, she's really excited
smiling
about the
and
auction.
happy the whole time. I did notice
she
this.
is smiling and happy the whole time.
All times. Caroline does not look sad.
And she even, there's a scene where Sue finds a bamboo shoot or whatever,
tube.
Thank you, right in front of Caroline, and Caroline's like, nice, yes, like encouraging her, like not like, oh man, I missed it, So that
reminds me of Gabler. It does. Gabler
just
was
encouraging,
always positive,
kind,
always
positive.
encouraging.
Right, exactly. So like somebody everybody probably likes, but is just not thinking of as a target.
It's not a threat. Nope.
Right. So I just feel like I can't move her up in top 3 yet because of lack of content and because of not really knowing her that well still, even though she's been really instrumental in the last couple of votes. So, but she did move up to number 4 for me.
I agree. I have a couple questions though. I just want to double check in her confessional counter. Does she have any episodes where she got 0 confessionals?
No, she has not.
Okay. That's the death knell. Now, other death knells we had talked about in the past were no mat chat, but that went away with 45 and 46. So the mat chat is a nicety, not a necessity. So Andy, Gabe, and Teeny all have mat chats, but again, nicety, not necessity. They broke the pattern in 45 and 46. We can then talk about the, what was the other hint? Oh, the sob story. The only one who actually has a true sob story is Kyle. Emotional backstory. And his was the beginning of episode 1. And we'll talk about that with Kyle. So that does help Kyle, but like doesn't seem like a necessity. They've kind of dropped the backstories. And I think everyone in the Survivor world went, thank you, Survivor. If you're going to do it, just wait till later. If you got to do it, make it natural. Like it doesn't, like the producer did not poke and prod for this story. Let it come out because of something happened. Like when Katurah got her letter from her mom, she's like, I'm actually estranged from my mom, whatever the word is. I don't want to have contact there. It's like, okay, this was the proper time to put that. That makes sense. Letters from home, by the way, is the perfect way to segue to sob stories if they're looking for them, in my opinion. Because now we're directly hearing from, or if we had an actual family visit, right, that would be a good natural segue to an emotional backstory. So, anyways, point being is that used to be a death knell, and it could be still. We don't know for sure because the season hasn't ended.
The 0 vote.
But we are 8 episodes in, and only one person hasn't, and it's Kyle.
Oh, the sob story.
And I don't think Kyle's high on anyone's.
No.
I mean, I know there's some fans of Kyle. I'm talking about in general consensus. It doesn't seem like Kyle's high in people's winner rankings. He has a big threat in his back. So things we're looking for are 0 confessional episodes, which nothing indicates that has been broken yet. Mat chats, but that was broken. And then the sob story. The sob story is as recent as 46. So that is like this season, I'm like kind of adjusting. Like, is it going to happen or not? Waiting with bated breath. So let's talk about the intro because that is something that has been going on since 45. And 45's was so simple. Dee's name was the highest out of all of them. It was that simple. That was the hint. D1. In 46, Hunter's name was the highest, but it was only halfway up the screen. Okay. Hunter went out in the middle of the season, 9th out of 18th. Kind of confirming, okay, so the placement of your name, if your name's there, means that's what your placement will be. So I know we're going to talk about Teeny later, but of course, Caroline doesn't have that. Now, Kenzie, her hint showed her happy face, gold Survivor 46 logo, the only person to get that, followed by Liz. So it's kind of like a double joke. Like it was like one was a hint, but the other one was a joke because Liz is rich. Everyone knows that. Liz is like a multi-billionaire going to Applebee's on Wednesdays. So it got a little bit more complicated in my mind because they tried to trick you with the Hunter thing, but then gave it with the Kenzie Liz thing. this season, there are so many hints we've talked about.
Right.
I mean, we've talked extensively about Sierra and why I thought Sierra.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that we can all agree on is a woman is holding a torch in front of the 47 logo. And not only that, but also feels like the path for women to win is more, there's more options than there are for men to win the season based on the storylines. Personal opinion. A woman is holding the torch in front of the 47 logo. A woman's winning. If it's not that, that is a cruel shot to leave in the theme song. That's all I'm saying. That is a cruel, unfair shot. So if it is true, epic trolling by the show, like a man wins, I mean.
Right.
Like Sam wins, amazing storyline, Vanuatu levels of storyline, but at the same time, they tricked us. Like they just straight up were just trying to trick us.
That'd be awesome.
Like it wasn't like a man and a woman are holding it in front of the logo, which is what I would prefer because that would be more ambiguous. Like, okay, it doesn't actually mean a winner hint, but a woman by herself. It was no man. There was no man there.
Or if at some point there's a woman, then at some point there's a man. Or if it's like so vague you can't tell.
It was definitely a woman. There's
no, I know.
Okay,
I'm saying that would be better.
Yeah. So, all right. So here we go. I went back and watched the intro. You know this. You watched me do it. Yeah. I went back and watched the intro a bunch of times looking for hints. So I will talk about them as we go. Andy doesn't have anything. Andy's thing is he has a mat chat, as I said, nicety, not necessity. Caroline has that one different shot where she's like spearfishing or whatever it's called. She's on top of the rocks. Looks like she's spearfishing maybe. And that's like a wide shot. I know people talked about that back in like week 2 when the theme song got dropped. They're like, that's a bit of a different shot. I'm like, yeah, but does it really mean anything? Who's Caroline? You know,
right.
Seriously, who's Caroline? Then you get a close up of Caroline on her face. And that's like a normal shot. Everyone gets like one of those where it's like smiling or like having a serious look and it's like super close up. But then the shot right after those two is a drone shot right above Caroline's head as she's spearfishing. Like you're overlooking Caroline and like, hey, you're overlooking Caroline.
Yeah.
And it's been there the whole time. It didn't get added like in week 8. By the way, there's no theme song this week in the episode, I noticed. It wasn't like added later. That was been there since episode 2. I overlooked the overlooking shot of overlooking Caroline. And because of my conspiracy theory brain, there's nothing against Caroline so far that says she cannot win. She doesn't have like 0 confessional episodes, let alone multiple 0 confessional episodes. I know some people have those. I'm putting her number 3. There's no threat on her back. She's smiling. She looks happy. People like her. Who's spending time getting out Caroline? But that could be who's spending time getting out Caroline in a good way, not in a bad way. Do you put any value in the overlooking shot?
I really don't. Honestly, just with this season, I am discounting the theme song because it feels like there are so many red herrings that it's just like, why should I take this seriously when they're clearly red herrings all over the place? They're screwing with us,
you're saying.
So I'm not taking the theme song seriously. And that's just my opinion.
Wow.
Like, I just don't want to take into account because it seems so like it's just too much.
Because they put so much into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I've like freeze framed on every single shot in the theme song. Jeff's in it a few times you don't even notice, but obviously Jeff's the host. So I'm discounting him for winning, but I don't think I should discount him completely. He is in the theme song in a very mysterious way, but no, for real. Yeah. So Caroline's one of the 3 who I believe have some sort of hint. And I wish her storyline is more prominent because I would actually probably push her up to 2 because my number 2 has a death now. So we'll talk about her when we get there. But yeah, I mean, at this point, the season has been all over the place in terms of like, there's no, I don't know, it's not like Kenzie D or Jam Jam where like we kind of knew.
Right.
You know, I thought I kind of knew with Sierra, but what do I actually know? Apparently the answer was nothing.
Yeah, me too. I've also been surprised. I mean, I also moved Caroline up. She's number 4 for me now. And again, it's just because I feel like...
you only got 1 spot below me.
Right. She's very solid content and hasn't been skunked. And like, there's nothing right now saying no, in my opinion.
Right.
So
I've hard shifted. All 5 women are in the top 5 spots and all 5 men in the bottom 5. That's my hard shift I did today. I cannot put a man in the top 5 and I cannot put a woman in the bottom 5 just based on the hints and the storyline. And let me eat my words next week when it turns out the men make an alliance are like all women need to go. That's what we've been doing this whole time after Rome. Okay, well, what did I know, you know?
Yeah. I can't quite agree with that yet. I do feel like the men have more targets on their back right now. But at the same time, the women's alliance hasn't taken off at all and women keep going. So yeah, I'm not.
We'll talk about that when we get the teeny.
Right. Yeah. I'm not quite there yet, but I can see that.
All right, Sweet Caroline, number 2 for me, number 4 for you. Who's next?
Next is Gabe. Gabe had 4 confessionals.
I'm sorry, Sweet Caroline's number 3 for me, not number 2. I was thinking about putting her up at number 2. She's number 3 for me. Yeah.
3 and 4 for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Gabe had 4 confessionals this week. He has a total of 37.
And he doesn't have any advantage, nothing. Okay.
No.
Gabe was our highest male outside of Sam for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And what
he's
has
still my
Gabe
highest
really
male.
done since the merge? Like,
here's what he's done.
He got kicked in the can by Rachel last week. Go ahead.
Yes.
No, I'm listening. Go ahead. Yeah.
So he's still leading Tuku. He's still orchestrating that. And he has an alliance that seems to be sticking together. Whereas everyone else's alliance keep flip-flopping and going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe wanted Sierra gone this week and Sierra went. Like, he was the only one really pushing for Sierra.
That was my read, by the way, too, is that Gabe wanted Sierra gone. That's why Sierra went, not because of Andy.
Right. It's not really because of Andy.
No.
Andy just wanted God out. I don't think he
got
really
the
cared.
emotional reason for Sierra, whereas the strategic reason was not in Andy's hands.
Right.
From my observation.
Yeah, because what we heard pre-tribal was Gabe wants Sierra, Caroline wants Rachel, Teeny wants Sam, Andy doesn't really care. Saul just doesn't want Rachel to go.
Right.
You know,
I'm
it was
surprised Gabe didn't push more on Rachel, but you're right. Saul came in to defend her.
Right. There was seemingly mass confusion as to who Gata was going home and who brought them all together in
But we
one
knew
vote.
it was Agata.
Yes, it was Gabe.
Yeah.
And they
Good
even
point.
split the votes for idols, which we don't know whose idea was that, but I really feel like Gabe is kind of the mastermind right now. And yes, he has somewhat of a target on his back, but it's not as big as Kyle's. It's not as big as Sam's. He's playing a very good game as far as strategizing and leading people the way he wants them to go, while at the same time kind of keeping a low threat level. So he's still not as high for me as obviously some of the women, but he's the highest man because I think he's doing really, really well.
He has
right
the
now.
best odds and best storyline of any man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
You've convinced me. I moved Gabe up in my rankings just for me talking there.
just right now?
Right now.
Okay, cool. Well, in my opinion though, like he does, I think his downfall will be maybe how he has treated some people because he does have a little bit of cocky attitude.
Like who in particular would you say?
I'm just thinking of that. I'm just thinking of that scene with Rachel where he like swore they would go to rocks, and clearly he wasn't going to do
Rachel
that.
has no power right now, but if she were to gain it,
Right. I'm just saying if he keeps doing things like that where he's like over promising or over lying, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like where there's not just
the story was so fake. I'm going to go to rocks for you.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. That could be his downfall. But like that's really the only negative content that I have seen from him so far. It seems to me that Gabe is performing really well, and the only negative aspect we've seen is that slightly little villainous side he has, which is not really, it's not that bad, and we've seen it in winners before, so it's definitely still a possibility. But his path forward might be more difficult simply because of, like, it doesn't seem like he's really tight with anyone except Sue, and Kyle has a big target on him right now, so all he really has seemingly is maybe Sue and Caroline. So we'll see, you know, what his path might be moving forward, but I think he's playing a good game.
Yeah. You've convinced me. I just don't see any man winning at the moment. But I guess if a man were to win out of all of them, it would be Gabe. Well, I've already locked in Andy in my 6th spot. So I put Gabe at 7. But know that I would be willing to move Gabe to 6. I'm not anti that idea. I am putting all women above all men based on the storyline and the hints. But everyone knows by this point in our podcast history that I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to Survivor. I buy into the conspiracies. I'm all about it. It's more fun that way. You know, if I sit here and try to treat everything like a math problem, that's no fun. People are here for tangents and conspiracy theories, and that's also what I am here for. So
drama.
We're on the same page. Yeah. But but drama in terms of just talking about Survivor, like very low stakes drama, very low stakes in the scheme of life. So,
well, Gabe is 5th for me.
He is 7th for me, but your ranking is more than fair. I actually thought you were going to put him higher based on everything you just said. So, all right, who's after Gabe?
Next is Genevieve. Genevieve had 3 confessionals this week with a total of 23. And she also moved up really fast for me. This is, and I know we'll talk about it, but like this is the one person I spent probably 3 minutes just staring at my computer. Do I move her up or do I keep her? Because she has had 1-0 confessional episode. And so I feel like she has that death knell that we've talked about. But if you
I just realized I did move her down. Okay.
You moved her down?
Genevieve. We're talking about Genevieve, right?
Yeah.
What about Genevieve?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I thought I'm with you. The death knell of 0 confessionals. I'm like, with Sierra, I know I just interrupted you. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, yeah, she has that death knell, but I spent like 3 minutes like legitimately just thinking, am I going to move her up? But I felt like I had to move her up because if we just completely ignore episode 2, which I know
which is hard to do.
It's hard to do. Everything else that she's had is golden. Like
the first 3 episodes, there was like 27 seconds of Genevieve content. Somebody counted it up. It was ridiculously low. It wasn't just episode 2. It was the content episodes 1 and 3 were almost non-existent. Sure. And I think episode 1 was 2 hours. Mm-hmm. We're talking between 5.5 hours of Survivor with commercials. We got 27 seconds of Genevieve.
But she has really just risen, I feel like, in the last couple episodes. So if they are doing something new this season, and I know it's possible, that's what I'm leaning towards. I can't ignore her. Like just strictly on a strategic side, she seems to be leading Lavo. They voted with her against Gata, where before both Teeny and Saul were like, yeah, let's work with Gata. We like them. I like Rachel. You know, I like Sierra. So, but Genevieve convinced them to work with Tuku and get out Gata. So she's persuasive. She's definitely under the radar. She seems kind of quirky. Like, I don't think people are seeing her as a threat yet. Mm-hmm. Her content this episode was she wanted chocolate and potato salad, and she just keeps running through the jungle. Chocolate. I
thought that was pretty funny. That reminded me of Rebecca. I told her that last night, but also kind of reminds me of you. Like motivation to run. Okay, I got to get chocolate.
Yes. But like she's super smart. She thinks Gata is more dangerous than Tuku. And I think this is because that they're seemingly a tight 4. So Andy flipping was helpful. But she thinks that like they're bigger threats. Sam and Sierra are a big threat. Rachel's a big threat. Mm-hmm. Andy maybe not. But on Tuku, who do you have as a big threat? Kyle and Gabe in their mind. So that's like
both of the men.
3 threats versus 2 threats.
Are you saying the men are bigger targets than women?
No, I'm saying Gata has 3 big targets.
Yeah.
Sam, Sierra, and Rachel.
Sierra's gone.
I know. In this point in the episode.
Okay, all right.
Versus Gata, who only seems to have Gabe and possibly Kyle. Just Gabe for his strategy and Kyle for his
winning immunities.
Challenges, yes.
Even though one was a 3rd place victory.
So she convinced people to go over against Gata. She wanted Sierra gone at the end of the conversation, I think eventually with Gabe. I'm trying to remember. I wrote that down and then I'm like, is that right? I think she wanted Rachel gone. Mm-hmm. But anyways,
Genevieve wanted Rachel gone.
Yeah. Originally she really wanted Rachel gone. I just feel like she's had such good content the last couple episodes. I couldn't not move her up. Like I'm just going to, again, I'm ignoring the theme song. I'm ignoring the Zero
No, she hasn't hit the theme song.
I'm ignoring the theme. I'm just talking about things I'm ignoring.
Saying there's a theme song hint that helps you though.
So there's a theme song hint that about Genevieve. All right, go ahead and tell us.
I kind of hinted at it last week. I don't know if I talked about it too in depth, but I'm talking about it this week because there's 3 people who have hints. Genevieve's hint is bats. Bats, which by the way are not birds. They are mammals, Mary. Rebecca looked this up last night. They're not.
Everyone knows that.
Everyone, yes. Mary is everyone knows that. Everyone knew that. I already knew that. It was Rebecca that we were teaching, not me. All right. So bats are not birds. They are mammals. Good to know. Anyways, so the theme of the season is bats. Like so many bats in the intro. You know, literally the immunity necklace is a bat. Bats. All right. Mm-hmm. So in the theme song, you get bats and like Asia looks up at them and Annika looks up at them and Caroline looks up at them, which by the way, that is not a pro for Caroline. Consider who I just said, Asia and Annika.
Right.
But for Genevieve, that's all before we get to the actual tribes. Before it does red tribe, blue tribe, yellow tribe, whatever order the tribes are in. It shows Genevieve like smiling, kind of like looking off in the distance, but like a little bit upward. And then it shows a shot of bats flying overhead over all these trees during the daylight.
So looking up at bats.
But that's like the mammal of the season, the animal of the season, whatever. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying, it's not the same kind as Asia, Annika, and Caroline are looking up. Like their necks are cranked up. Gotcha. They're in the first row of a movie theater. Genevieve's just looking up, like her eyes are slightly tilted up, not like her head's cranked up, like she's looking up at somebody or something. And then it shows a bat just flying overhead. It's kind of like it's like one of those, but it's in the middle of the tribe. It's not before all the tribes, not after all the tribes. It's in the middle of showing the people on the tribe. Mm-hmm. And she's the only one in the red who gets anything like that. Kind of like the shot in between Sam and Sierra of the woman holding the torch was right in the middle of the yellow tribe out of nowhere.
Sure.
And Caroline, her shot is of the overhead is like the one in the middle of the tribe that kind of stands out.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
You know what they need to do?
What?
They need to
If everyone something like this?
Well, I was just going to say they need to hire somebody who knows nothing about the show and nothing about who's finished in what place.
Yeah.
And just be like, hey, here's the image of our contestants.
That's less fun.
And here's the B-roll and put it together.
That's less fun.
Obviously, there wouldn't be an article written and published on CBS saying, we hired a newbie to do our theme song.
No, they
year.
never announced anything like that, by the way, people. For like, did the CBS ever announce that they... No, they don't announce anything. I know. Well, yeah, people have legitimately commented like, how do you know they did? Because I watched the show and it changed. That's how I know. All right. So anyways, that is a pro for Genevieve. I'm not saying it is a lock for Genevieve because again, she was nobody for 3 episodes. She had a 0 confessional episode. These are knocks. And I think if I'm going back to the drawing board on what are death knells, the only thing that has not been upended as a death knell, which could be, by the way, this season could upend everything. The sob story, the match that already got upended back 45. The sob story, the 0 confessional episode. I don't think the 0 confessional episode, by the way, is the thing to upend at all for a winner. Right. I don't think a winner should ever be ignored for a whole episode by any means. Because Genevieve literally had no storyline for 3 episodes. It was the Rome and Teeny show on that tribe with a little bit of Saul. Who was Genevieve? I don't know. And then she popped up when it was like she saw like used her mind's eye and saw Keyshawn was planning on voting her off in confessionals, and like that's when she popped up. Amazing. And I agree with you. She's huge uplift. Like I cannot believe the progression of her storyline from where she was to where she is now. She's number 4 for me.
Number 3 for me.
Number 2 last night, and that 0 confessional episode. I mean, seriously, this is the only thing holding me back. Otherwise, it should be number 2 for me as well.
Well, again, if we have another, we seem to have like the rise and fall of Genevieve over and over again. So if she has another fall, I'll probably bring her back down. But it was just a really great week for her. So
what about Genevieve? Yeah, good week. And if her and Caroline get together and knock out Rachel, that would be massive.
Or if Rachel knocks out one of them.
Ooh, hello.
All right,
that would
ready?
That would really help Rachel a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's after Genevieve?
Kyle is next.
All right.
Kyle had 3 confessionals this week with a total of 19.
Doesn't Kyle have multiple 0 confessional episodes, or am I mistaken?
No one has multiple 0 confessionals.
Kyle has 1.
Kyle has 1.
Yeah, right. Yes. And he has 3 immunity wins, though. Put an asterisk on that second win. Not knocking Kyle, by the way. Just like absurd that people are looking at him as some challenge beast when he lost to Genevieve and Teeny last week. He did not win. He won, but he did not win, if that makes sense.
He probably could have kept going, but he didn't have to.
No, he lost.
Oh, no.
He was trying to win.
Yes,
he was trying to win, right. So they didn't go to tribal.
That's right. I'm sorry.
He wasn't trying to just get individual. He was trying not to go to tribal, period.
Right.
And he couldn't pull that off because he lost to Teeny and Genevieve, who did not get viewed as, by the way, the winners of immunity, even though they actually were.
Yes, if that had been a regular challenge where everyone was available.
Yeah, like a normal episode.
Kyle probably would have gone home last week. But anyways, yeah. Yeah, Kyle's still not high up on my list. His content this week was saying that Saul is one of his favorite people.
Which is good for Saul.
Good for Saul. And then saying that it wasn't really great that he won immunity because now everyone's going to want him out even more. And that was his entire content.
And he's a target. People have talked about being a target. I think if he didn't win immunity, he was, I don't know if he was for sure gone, but he was definitely like being strongly considered. So now with 3 immunity wins, if I'm putting votes on Kyle again at fantasy next week, watch me be wrong. Watch Kyle win out and get 9 wins in a row.
Right.
An epic record or something absurd like that.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. But if Kyle loses immunity, he is gone, in my opinion. Or he is at least strongly considered. Somebody else have to do something to get ahead of Kyle. Kyle with 3 immunity wins in the new era is almost unheard of, especially 3 in a row. That is unheard of in the new era.
Yeah.
That's a threat. I would feel threatened. I wouldn't feel threatened by somebody getting 1 or 2. But like 3 in a row, okay. Right. Like, when do I get a chance at winning?
Also, it's Kyle. Like, he is so chill.
He is. That's
kind.
That's his biggest benefit.
It's not like it's Rome who keeps winning.
Rome would rub it in your face. Nah, Kyle has the issue of
being the nice guy.
Of being nice. So I don't think he would do anything really to, like, if he gets targets put on his back, he's gonna be like, dang it.
I mean, that's kind of like he was saying in his confessional with the smile, like, man, I won and it's nice, but now they're really going to want me out.
Yeah,
and he still has like
Kyle,
a big smile.
Why don't you think about that when you're winning immunity? You didn't have to win immunity, Kyle. You could have lost. When Sam went out first, or one of the first people, by the way, I was like, I wonder again, remember how we talked about that a couple weeks ago when he went out early? I'm like, I wonder if that's part of lowering his threat level. It didn't get talked about again, though. I think he's just losing challenges.
I think he's just not that great at the challenges.
He keeps going out like early.
That's true.
Kyle is getting to the end and it's putting a target on his back.
Yeah, but we've talked about this. A lot of times you can be buff and have muscles and not have the mental fortitude.
It's the perception.
Yeah. It's like you have to really want to win a challenge. You have to have endurance. And just because you have muscles doesn't mean you have endurance.
Right. That's true.
So,
that's true.
That's Kyle.
Kyle, not long for this world. I don't see a path. So I'm sorry, we kind of got off the whole, let's talk about people's paths to the end to win. Caroline, I see paths to the end, though she does need to make moves to build up something for the jury. Genevieve's path to the end, I think, is already in place. But again, I'm worried about the lack of content in the first 3 episodes. So both of them have paths to the end to win. Andy, I feel like is final 3 GOAT at the moment.
Right.
Kyle
wins every immunity. That's his path
has to play idols and wins immunities at this point. And I think anyone could pull that off for 9 episodes in a row. How do you not?
Oh yeah,
vote for them?
I would be so happy if Kyle won because he won immunities at the end. Like that just it hasn't
happened in a while.
Really happened in a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. And when it did, it's like maybe once or twice. You know, this is not a regular thing on Survivor.
Yeah, it's happened a few times, but just hasn't happened in so long.
Yeah.
The last person to win 4 immunities in a season is Tony. And then before that, Rick Devens.
Right.
Like it's an elite class of people to win 4 in a season. And then before that, I think it was Chrissy Hoffbeck. And then before that, of 35, I think it was before that. But anyways, people will win a lot of immunities. But again, those people all won 4.
Right.
Last time someone won 5, I think was Ozzy. Don't quote me on that. No, it was Mike Holloway in season 30.
I think it'd be awesome if he kept winning immunity challenges and kept hanging on for a while.
6 more.
Eventually he would probably, I don't know if
there
anybody
has to be
can
something he's not good at.
Yeah, exactly.
He's won endurance challenges. And even then, he didn't even win last week. He lost to Teeny and Genevieve.
Right.
So, Kyle, I feel like it's not long for this world. I don't see a path to the end for him to win. His best path at the moment is to, I hate to say it like this, get injured, but not really get injured, but like get injured just enough to still be on the Survivor. If that makes sense. Like Tyson in Blood vs. Water got injured and then nursed his injury to make it seem like it was lasting a lot longer than it actually was. And it lowered his threat level. He's like, I'm doing this on purpose so people don't view me as a physical threat because I am one.
Sure.
Kyle needs something equivalent to that. But it might be kind of late for it. Yeah. Kyle needs to be under the radar so much that people are like, there are bigger threats out here than Kyle who's winning immunities. In fact, Kyle winning immunities is helping me get out of these other people because they can't win immunities. I don't know. You know what I mean? That's my thought. That's the only way I can see Kyle getting the end is that there's like actually Kyle's helping me by keeping everyone else available to be voted off.
Sure. Yeah, actually that's not a bad strategy. Well, Kyle's still 9th for me. Like he's still pretty far down the list.
He's 10 for me.
I'd love it if he made it to the end. I think it'd be amazing. And if he did and won, that'd be incredible. But long shot.
All right, let's jump from K to R.
So Rachel, who has a hidden immunity, by the way, but
Rachel
does not have her smart shot in the dark anymore.
Smartly.
Yes, she has moved up for me as well. She had 7 confessionals this week with a total of 32.
Rachel recognized that the shot in the dark is a worthless shenanigan. It is the most worthless shenanigan. It has worked twice, and both times it really didn't help that person's game at all. One time, person wasn't even going in the episode anyways, and then the other time was Caleb, and he went the very next week.
Right.
Shot in the dark is I mean, it's a shot in the dark, but they need to rework it. As we've talked about how if it gets played and it doesn't work, the chances of it working increase. I think that was our solution. So if it's a 1 in 6 and it doesn't work, the next one is a 1 in 5.
Right.
You know, and that's just and that applies to everybody. It's a universal rule. Until we get down to a 1 in 2, I think that's where you got to leave it at. You can't go beyond.
Oh, yeah.
You can't make the 6th time it works guaranteed. But then strategically, people could be burning shot in the darks in theory to make a shot in the dark become almost an idol. You know what I mean? There's strategy to that. Right now, it is just...
But why would you do that? Because once you burn your shot in the dark, you don't get another one.
Well,
it would be for someone else.
This would, again, would it be like some next level thinking and how would we even pull this off kind of thing? You know, it's for your alliance. To increase the odds. Like, that's the... But again, yes, you also have to lose your vote.
It's still so risky.
I am aware My point is she burned her worthless shenanigan to read everyone's faces and recognize that, okay, people were not that worried when I played the shot in the dark. That's how I read the situation, because she hasn't explained this yet. So I didn't play my idol. And I was like, when we watched it in person, I was like, I think it's what she's doing.
Yeah.
I would still play my idol, but then again, no one knows she has an idol.
Right.
So we're not in a situation where everyone knows she has one. And she read the room right, and they voted off Sierra. Or they were going for Sam or Sierra. It wasn't even her.
No, I think this was a super smart move. Even if she had, in my mind, I'm thinking she knows something's going on. Clearly,
her vote wasn't going to matter.
Her vote's not going to matter if they're voting on, if they're flipping on Gata. If they weren't flipping on Gata, her vote wouldn't matter. So yeah, it was really smart by her. We watched her try and read the room, and that could be dangerous, but like in general, people just can't help letting something, especially if you're the target. It was so obvious last time she was the target by everyone's faces when she just got up and left. So I think it was super smart of her. People keep saying she's a threat, a social threat. She's so nice. Everyone loves her. And so we have to take their word for it. I mean, I do see it, but I haven't seen it played out, I guess, as much as I would like. So also her content this week was just really, really great too. I mean, we never get negative content from Rachel. She comes back from camp after tribal. She's all alone. Can't find the flip for the fire. She's just sitting there and she's saying, I hope I didn't make anyone mad. I'm just excited to be here though. It's just like constantly cute, I guess is what I'm getting from
Sierra
her.
turns on her and Annika's alliance, and look who's gone.
Right. Sierra's gone.
I mean, not that Rachel was the one who did her in, but
right.
Who won that battle at the end of the day?
I think the only thing I could say that might be slightly negative about Rachel this week is that she's talking to Sam and he said something about Andy being one of their numbers. And she's like, oh yeah, I always forget about Andy.
He's
and then
like,
laughs.
I do too.
Yeah. And then laughs. So like
but that's part of the underestimation of Andy.
Yes. Yeah. Other than that, like she read the room correctly as far as something was going down with Gata.
Has some content every episode.
Has content every episode. Has never been skunked. She has good, like she had 7 confessionals this week and 7 last week, which of course she was in danger of going home last week.
She needed the content last week.
Right. Yeah. So we get that. But there was one tiny moment where they're at tribal council and Teeny says something about there's only one winner and there's a cut to Rachel. Could be nothing, but I noticed that
so often though. Like last week they had their feast and then they said something about a winner and they cut to Genevieve. They're just, that's red. That's why I say when there's red herrings, like I cannot look at every red herring.
That's true.
There's too many.
I guess I just don't notice all of them. Yeah. So I noticed that one because this was a good episode for Rachel.
Rachel's number 2 for me.
She's number 2 for me also.
She jumped up. I mean, we've had her in our top. I think last week I had her in number 4. And before that, she's been sitting at like 5 all season, or at least for a bit. I can't say all season for sure, but she's been sitting at 5 for a bit because she is consistently there. She's in a rough spot.
She is.
I don't know what her path is to the end.
Right.
But I can see how a jury would vote for her. Like she did not burn Sam and Sierra on their way out the door. Because I assume Sam's going to be going soon. She did not burn them on their way out the door.
Right.
Who's not going to vote for Rachel at the moment? There's no one at the moment where I feel like is anti-Rachel. Tuku might feel a little salty that Tiana went because instead of Rachel, but at the end of the day, that's not Rachel's fault. Right. She did not choose that position to get into, and Saul saved her. So if it ever came out that Saul saved her, sure, it might look good for Saul, but at the same time, I can't really be mad at Rachel. She didn't like find advantage and save herself and make us vote off Tiana.
She's just playing the game.
Yeah. That's the way Survivor designed the game.
I think her only path forward right now at this moment, she needs to do a little damage control as far as, I never really was with Sam and Sierra. They blindsided me with the Annika vote. I was so excited that there was this mergatory stuff because I thought I was going next. I don't have any alliances. If you all would have just told me, I would have voted with you, whatever. Like, because she's already been shown to work with Teeny.
Does she have personal content?
Not a lot.
Gosh,
not
that's
really.
we're in a tough spot with personal content. I gotta tell you. That's why that's the one. And it's not. I'm not looking for sob stories. I'm looking for just who are people outside of talking strategy on the show. And that's like everybody. There's like a few exceptions. The edit is so all over the place. I will say in the intro, there is nothing for Rachel outside of the very obvious woman holding a torch, which of course narrows us down at the moment to 5 out of 10 people. So she's in that 5, but there's no, like, in my opinion, Teeny, Genevieve, and Caroline all have some sort of extra shot.
Right.
And Sue and Rachel do not. But aside from that, there's nothing that says Rachel can't win. There's nothing like it's not, the storyline's been there the whole time. She has been present, even if things didn't go her way. It just felt like, wow, why didn't we get more of Rachel's perspective at times? But I look at the confessional counter, I'm like, maybe we have, or were these fluff confessionals? And I forgot what they were, you know?
I feel like we have. I don't, you know, there's nothing any like shocking, like she's never had fruit like Sam or whatever. But I do think
she never had to experience pineapple for the first time on camera.
She does get consistent content. I mean, at the auction, she found the advantage to the idol. She gets the idol right in front of everyone. So, you know, that's like little clues about being brave, being sneaky. She's playing the game really well. Like everyone says she's super kind and she's connecting well with everyone. So I think maybe we're not seeing her make any strategy moves right now. And we're not hearing maybe a little bit of personal content from her. But to be fair, I don't think we've gotten a lot of personal content from many people so far. There's like one or two on each tribe that we've really heard from, and that's about it. So that's not really, to me, a bad sign as far as she's not going to win. So yeah, she moved up to number 2 for me also this week. I almost put her as number 1, but I didn't. I just, again, there was a lot that happened this week, and I feel like I'm still kind of
number 1.
Yeah, I'm still kind of settling through everything.
She currently has a target on her back. Caroline and Genevieve want her out.
Yes.
So if Rachel is to succeed, she needs to get out Caroline and Genevieve, or do something where she works with them.
Or win them over, yeah.
Yeah, win them over or get them out. Because at the moment, that was their first thought. That out of everyone available on Gada, it wasn't Andy, it wasn't Sam, it wasn't Sierra, it was Rachel. Why? Well, we don't quite know yet, in my opinion. Is it, I mean, Caroline, I kind of get, again, because like, well, Tiana went out. Maybe Caroline liked Tiana, and therefore, revenge. But Genevieve? What about Genevieve? Why does Genevieve want Rachel out? I don't know.
There's something there.
There's something, and maybe we'll find out. But at the moment, so it's like, I just don't, to be clear, this is one of the seasons, first time since 43, where I'm just like, I do not feel confident in my rankings across the board. 43, again, infamously, I had Jesse Carla like 1 and 2 all season.
Yeah.
And we saw how that turned out. We got Gablerd. So, and I love that. I really do. And so at the moment, I'm like, who could Gabler me? I'm like, there's a handful of people here.
There's a couple, yeah.
Who would get to the end and win. I'd be like, we got Gablerd. We got Gablerd. So I'm trying to be more cognizant this time. I was so like locked in on those two last time.
Yeah.
And they never went anywhere. They were playing good games, especially Jesse. This time, well, the person I was super confident in went in episode 7. So time to reevaluate.
Right.
So I think I'm more cognizant this time. It's also been a couple of years too. So maybe I'm wiser.
Maybe.
All right. So Rachel she needs to get the target off her back. That's her current issue. But no one knows she has an idol. And that is a positive.
That is true. That is a good positive.
Keep that in mind. Who's next?
Next is Sam. Sam had 6 confessionals this week with a total of 45.
Sam is a dead man walking like Kyle. He has a fake idol, which I think is going to be the thing we saw next time on Survivor. He's going to tell Andy is that he has an idol. Because remember, Andy doesn't know that Sam got the God idol and then didn't play it. And it's not worth anything anymore. As far as Andy knows, no one got the God idol.
Right.
He doesn't know anything about the idol.
Right.
As far as I recall, he doesn't know who has it. So I believe Sam told Sierra, who's out of the game, of course, that the idol, of course, was a one-time use. I think even Rachel knew. Someone told me in the comments Rachel knew because I thought Rachel didn't know. Rachel did know. So there is an opportunity there for him to try to trick Andy, and Rachel tells Andy the truth.
Possibility.
About his idol.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing we're getting next week is that that's why they set it up, is that Sam next week's going to pull out his I have the God idol.
Yeah.
And Andy's going to go, shoot, I can't get out Sam like I want to.
Right.
Because Andy's on a warpath to get out these people who worked with him. Just not in the way he liked. All right. Sam is just in a rough spot.
He is in a very rough spot.
He has personal content. He has a lot of strategic content. His edit has kind of quieted down since the merge story. But even this week, he had a couple good moments. He was doing the Rick Devens impression during the looking like for the news segment.
Yeah. During the auction, trying to find money for the auction.
And then he's like, when he lost his vote, he's like, now if somebody wants my vote, I can't tell them you have my vote. What I can say is you have my blessing, which was a funny moment. It's like Sam has good content.
He does.
And even if he doesn't win, I hope he makes it further the next week because Sam is good for the show. Like they need him on the show. He brings the entertainment. He's bringing chaos now that his back's to the wall. Good.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, good. If your back's to the wall, don't sit on your hands. Good.
Right.
Do something.
Right. I think that he will. He's definitely shown that he is a player. He's played really well so far in the game.
He's not good at challenges, though.
Right. He's not great at challenges, apparently.
He needs to be,
unless he's throwing them, which we've talked about briefly. But I don't think he is. I think he's just not very good at challenges. Yeah. The only other notes I had for him as far as content this week is, again, at Tribal, he says something about it's hard to be a shepherd with more sheep, which, first of all, is kind of demeaning to the other players.
Because he said that's at Tribal. It wasn't like in a confessional.
Right, exactly. If you want to say in a confessional, that's one thing. But saying it at Tribal in front of everyone, it's like it's hard to be a shepherd and herd all these sheep when there's more of them. And, of course, immediately cuts to Andy. And it's just like, it's kind of a demeaning thing to say. And I know he's just probably expressing his frustration.
Tribals are like an hour long. We're getting like 5 minutes.
Right.
And by the way, it's funny to me how they're an hour long, Mary, or longer. Mm-hmm. And we're still only getting like 5 minutes of them. And it's still nothing.
Right. It's still not.
That means that for an hour, they're sitting there appeasing Jeff, saying nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can't. Like, there's definitely strategy at Tribal to reveal as little as possible.
Which is against what Survivor wants.
Right. I know that's not what they want, but that's the best thing for you as a player. They've done. That's
how they've cultured it.
And then the other thing was, of course, he was super shocked by the vote, and he like literally glares at Andy as Sierra's leaving because he knows that Andy flipped. So he was really mad about that, which, of course, on next time Survivor, we'll see. So I think you're right. I think he's going to play hard. I think he might go out in a blaze of glory. But his target definitely is just increasing. Now he can argue, hey, I've got a big target. I'm going to be chaotic. Keep me around because you can get me out whenever. And he might slip through a couple more episodes based on that, but I don't think he's going to get very far. He needed Sierra, and they needed to work as a team, and they needed to keep their alliance glued together. As long as they could. And they didn't do that. And so, yeah, he's definitely lone man sinking.
He said it was a Gatatuka war this week. He wasn't wrong.
He was not wrong.
They got lost.
Yep.
Sam's not long for this world. I think Sam and Kyle both, they're like, I give them both 3 episodes at most.
Yeah.
Because Kyle could win immunity. Mm-hmm. I think their shelf life is not very long. They're both on their way out the door.
Right.
Again, why I think a woman's winning the season. Sure, a couple women have gone. We've had Rome go, Tiana go, and this week Sierra. So like it's been 1 man, 2 women, but now we're looking at 2 men going out the door.
Yes.
And Andy's a final 3 goat.
Mm-hmm.
So who's our viable men left? Saul and Gabe. Saul, who has had. We're gonna talk about Saul. I know is Saul next?
Next, yeah.
Oh yeah, because Sierra's gone. Well, okay, let's just talk about Saul then. Okay.
Wait, Sam's 8th for me.
Oh yeah, Sam is 9th for me, right there with Kyle.
Tied.
He dropped, yeah.
Yeah, he did drop. So next is Saul. Saul had 3 confessionals this week with a total of 26.
Saul's the only other person besides Gabe who I see like could get to final 3 and still have the respect of the jury.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kyle and Sam would get the respect of the jury. Don't get me wrong. How are they getting there at the moment? I don't know.
Right.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying I don't know. Saul, I can see a path to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe, I can see a path to the end. I don't think it's the story of the season as a man to win. But the final 3 cannot. I mean, I'd be shocked if it was all women as well.
Right.
So there's likely a man or 2 who could make final 3.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So Saul could be one of them. Saul is like a well-respected dude, but at the same time, people be like, I like Saul. Saul has to go.
Yes.
Saul is a Saul that Kyle said today. I like Saul.
Mm-hmm.
Saul's like, how have people not seen the Karate Kid?
Right.
By the way, very relatable to the audience at home. Like, not everyone has seen the Karate Kid. I'm aware. Mary, you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's good, though, not the remake. Rebecca and I talked about it, not the Jaden Smith remake with Jackie Chan. That one's not good. But the original is good. And Mary, I know how much you love Cobra Kai, the TV show.
I started to like it. And now I don't.
Mary, let's put it this way. Mary watched we watched season 1 of Cobra Kai on YouTube Red. That's what it was at the time when it came out. And Mary bought a Cobra Kai t-shirt, like a long sleeve shirt. That's how much Mary was in Cobra Kai.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we're done with season 3, she's like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we're going to finish the show because I like it. So Mary's enduring for me. Well, we're waiting on the final season to finish dropping all their episodes. I think they've dropped 10 out of 15. I don't know. Either way, the original movie, Saul's right, is good. The sequel, Karate Kid 2 is good. Karate Kid 3, Karate Kid, next Karate Kid, never seen it. And then Cobra Kai is pretty good. Depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're looking for.
Too much drama for me.
You have to watch the movies though to get all of because they bring back characters from the movies and it's not cameos. They are instrumental to the storyline. So did you know, Mary, that Ralph Macchio is older now than Pat Morita was in The Karate Kid? He's older than Mr. Miyagi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
That's
Mr.
crazy.
Miyagi looked like an old man.
Yeah, he did.
Kind of like Doc Brown looked like an old man in Back to the Future, but he wasn't as old as you think.
Mm-hmm. True.
Crazy how that works.
Crazy.
Anyway, so Karate Kid good. Anyway, Saul, very likable. I can see Saul being targeted at some point just because he is so likable. And he is like Kyle's super chill, but Saul's like, you can just tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Saul, you get a really good vibe from. But for me, if I'm on Survivor, I'd be like, I don't want to sit there with Saul. People like Saul.
Yeah, I think that his time definitely will come. There are bigger targets around him right now. I think
he benefits from Sam being there.
He does benefit from Stamp staying. He benefits from Gabe staying. He benefits from Kyle staying.
Yep.
So he definitely needs to keep the game that he's playing as far as like, he's saying, I'm acting goofy. I'm kind of being the chill uncle that everyone likes. So nobody knows or thinks I'm being strategic.
His storyline pre-merge though was just about Rome.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, he ended up toppling Rome, which is a similar storyline we saw to Gabe toppling, I forget her name.
Aubrey? Not Aubrey.
No. She started with an E. You can look. Can you double check Survivor 43 wiki for me, please? He toppled. It starts with an E. Toppled her, and then in 44 we saw Jam topple Josh. Both at the Mergatory, by the way. Same as Rome getting toppled here at the Mergatory by Saul. It is parallel to those two winners. The only two male winners we've had in the new era. What's her name?
Ellie.
I was about to say Evie, but I knew that wasn't right. Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie. He toppled Ellie in 43. Thank you for looking that up. So yeah, I mean that parallels well, but it is like his whole storyline was just about that. Who is Saul outside of that? Pre-merge, don't know, but Saul has developed more of a character post-merge. It just feels more like, okay, we're developing into a post-merge threat. So when he goes, you feel for him, but you also understand.
Right.
That's kind of what we've developed. Kind of like when Tiana went last week, like, okay, but in the pre-merge, they spent time dunking on Tiana for 2 episodes to let us know that when she goes, it was coming. Sierra went this week. They let us know this was coming. We ignored the sign. I ignored the signs.
Yeah.
That she was going. Sam, the signs are there. He's going. The signs there for Kyle to go. That's what you gotta look for. It's usually not out of complete left field when somebody's gone. There are usually signs. Are there any signs yet for Saul? People haven't really talked about wanting to get out of Saul besides Rome.
Nobody's talked about voting him off yet. Nobody's talking about how he's a threat.
Yeah.
So far, nobody's even really like, oh, let's make sure Saul's on board with this or whatever. You know what? Like, I felt like he's not even in a tight alliance, really.
So at the moment, he seems to be safe for a few episodes because there's no setup for him to go.
Yes.
At the moment. So I think Saul's in a good spot. He could make final 3. And if he does, I would not count him out of winning. He has never been skunked, correct?
Right.
So he doesn't have a death knell against him. So Solomon for me is number 8. He's the one I moved down, by the way, below Gabe when you were pitching Gabe earlier. I was like, you know what? Gabe does have the overall better storyline.
Yes.
Definitely
better than Saul.
What Solomon does have is roam if you want to, roam around the world.
He's 7th for me. I feel like if he does get to the end, he has a good shot, but I don't see him getting to the end. So
right. I think a woman's winning the season. So just too much favoring that at the moment. Solomon is a solid dude. Ha ha ha. If he does win, I will say he's the Saul survivor.
Oh,
it's there for us. It's been there the whole time. He's the Saul survivor. So, all right, who's next?
Next is Sue. Sue has a hidden immunity idol. I have her ranked last. 10th.
What?
She had 1 confessional this week with a total of 26 confessionals. So here's why I have Sue. I separated all my skunked people to be on the bottom. And I did move Genevieve out of that category.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's very hypocritical. Genevieve's really high.
But there was nothing that made me want to move Sue up. She had 1 confessional this week, and I don't even remember what it was. I'm sure it was probably about the auction. Maybe. Or about winning immunity because she won immunity.
Yeah.
But I don't remember.
Oh, I forgot to mention during Rachel's segment. Sorry, very quick detour. When they mentioned Rachel, like they had a confessional of Rachel finding that thing in the fries and putting it in her waistband.
Yeah.
She said, I'm putting this in my bra. And I'm like, whose bra is in their waistband? But then later she finds out and puts it in her bra. And somebody pointed out in a comment, they're like, hey, didn't they just take her confessional from later and use it for her putting the idol in her waistband or the clue in her waistband? She did. She put it in her waistband. She didn't put it up in her bra. Because because she was wearing a t-shirt. It'd been a little hard to do. Like people have been like, why is she ripping open her t-shirt right there?
Mm-hmm.
But then at camp, she did put the idol in her bra.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, not like that's not winner. And it's just like a weird, like, why? They couldn't just say she found, like, why did it have, why'd she have to specify where she was putting it? And then she didn't even put it in that spot.
Misspoken.
Okay, but the editors left it in. I don't know where she could have misspoken. Yeah, no, the show left it in on purpose. It's kind of confusing.
I don't know.
I know mistakes happen, and maybe it's just a mistake. Anyways, point being is Sue is a meme character. She's the meme of the season, but they haven't really leaned into the meme in a bit. Kind of like Liz. Liz got a lot of it early, and then we just kept joking about it, but Liz didn't actually talk about it every episode. How rich she was, I mean.
Right.
She was the meme character of last season. The meme character of the season is Sue. She's a pilot. You better respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody here.
She was definitely like,
and she's 45.
She didn't get much screen time as far as when strategy talks were happening. She was there, but you didn't hear what she had to say. Kyle said something to her right after immunity about they're going to want us out now. We didn't hear her response.
She got nothing when Tiana went.
Yeah, she got nothing when Tiana went. She's just been like so far under the radar. It's not even. She's so clearly not a player.
She's buddies with Caroline.
She's buddies with Caroline, and she's Gabe's number one. And that's all we know about her. Besides that, she's a pilot and she's 45.
Yeah, pre-merge, she was important. And post-merge, where is Sue?
Right. That she might make it, but who's going to respect her game? They're going to say she rode Gabe and Caroline's coattails.
Which is true at the moment.
Weird
to say anyone's riding Caroline's coattails, but at the moment, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she has won a couple immunities so far, right? She's won one at least.
Yeah, she won one this week. Mary, tell everyone fantasy-wise who you put your votes on to get out this week.
Yeah, I did that earlier, but I'll do it again.
Please.
I voted for Sue and Kyle. I put 5 votes on Kyle.
When it happened, it was so funny.
5 votes on Sue to go out. Well,
it was so funny. Like, Mary's like, how did both people who I put votes on one immunity?
The people I voted for one immunity.
I'm sorry if you said it earlier.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. It is funny. So yeah, just I have her at the bottom because I just don't see, even if she gets to the end, I don't see anyone voting for her. She's made no moves and she's just been an alliance member. And that's it.
It's true. What's Sue's path to the end of winning? And it's like, who's her ideal final 3?
We consistently just don't hear from her.
She's number 5 for me simply because she is a woman. Like there is other than that, Sue has a 0 confessional episode, which by the way, if Genevieve didn't have that, would shoot up the rankings. But man, they really put a nail in Genevieve's foot, holding her down. Sue here did not need that nail, but it certainly helps. Also, in week 1, they put her sob story in a secret scene, which I thought was a bit of a strange decision because it's the only person to have one in secret scene. I think Rome might have had one, but Rome's not in the game, so we're not talking about Rome. Mm-hmm. She's the only person actively in the game who has a sob story that's hidden away from us.
Right.
And everyone else either not said one or it's Kyle who has one, of course. So yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know, like what is Sue's pros for winning at the moment? It's like, I don't know, not a lot. So if we get Gabler, it's going to be Sue. She flew so far above our heads. Unlike Gabler went underwater, she went way above the clouds. We couldn't even see her above the clouds.
She does have a hidden immunity idol.
Yeah.
That no one,
she doesn't mention it in episodes.
That Caroline knows about, that I'm sure, oh no, Tiana was the only other person who knew about it.
Tiana's gone.
And she's gone. But she might have told people before she left. We don't know. Why would they have
shown that if she did?
Right. They should have shown that. But anyways, so yeah, I don't no path for her. Sorry, Sue. She's last for me. Where's she at for you? Oh yeah, 5th.
Number 5. But
because you think
simply because I think a woman's going to win. But I am open to watch Sam go on a tear and win. Hey, fun. Like that makes us more fun.
Yeah.
Us predicting the winner from episode 1, I'm aware it makes for a less fun series of podcasts. My goal, number 1, is to figure out who the winner is. Number 2, to entertain. Like if I'm just here to entertain, that means I'm just going to make stuff up rather than, which by the way, I have to say ESPN. I don't know if ESPN still does this. I haven't watched ESPN in a while. It felt like a lot of times when they were doing football analysis, they were just making stuff up to say something different that day versus what they said the day before. And it's like, that doesn't even sound right. I just want to throw that. We don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. I also don't talk about Survivor 5 days a week. So I guess I can't get into my head. I get in my own head, but I can't get in my own head too much when I'm not talking about it.
A little different.
In a podcast 5 days a week. So.
Okay.
Anyways, is that our last player?
No. We have Teeny still.
Teeny.
How could you forget Teeny?
How could I forget Teeny?
So Teeny had 3 confessionals this week with a total of 34.
Teeny is kind of taken a back seat, but we still check in with Teeny. Mm-hmm. We have not ignored Teeny like we ignored Sue.
Yes.
So Teeny has not gotten her way at all.
Right.
So Teeny needs a shift in how the game is being played by everyone to favor Teeny. At the moment, Teeny wants a women's alliance. Well, look at all the women still getting voted off.
Right.
You know, Teeny wants this week. She wanted Sam gone. Well, he's but that could be the turning point is when Sam does go and Teeny leads the charge.
Mm-hmm.
Teeny's like, I don't want Sierra to go.
It feels like everyone likes Teeny and she's kind of in with everyone right now. But at the same time, I don't see that she has any sway with anyone. She doesn't have any power.
Which is so strange. It seemed like pre-merge she had all the sway in the Red Tribe.
It felt like at Lavos she did have all the power. So this merge Teeny, again, we're hearing from her consistently. Her average confessional, let's see, is 4.25, which is pretty good. I mean, there's other people who have more, obviously. But yeah, it just feels like there's no reason to be checking in with Teeny because she doesn't have power. She doesn't have sway over anyone. She's not really making the moves, but we still get to hear what she wants to happen in the game. We still hear her reacting to the game. So that's why she's staying at number 1 for me right now. I don't feel like she's playing the best game right now, but that doesn't, you can be the best player and get voted off. And so she still has a good shot to win, in my opinion.
Teeny is in a good spot. Nothing says Teeny can't win. She has a mat chat. She has the highest name in the theme song. The only thing that throws me off about the highest name is when somebody asked today on our other podcast, why are we comparing Teeny's name to D? I'm not just comparing it to D. If it was just D, I would compare it to D, but there's now a pattern. They have put someone's name higher than everyone else's in every season. Hunter's name was higher than everyone else's. It was just in the middle of the screen, whereas D's was near the top. And if you overlay Teeny, D's, and Hunter's clearly is his indication. I know I've said this every week, but I gotta keep saying it because not everybody listens to every podcast, Mary. Mary's like, I've heard this 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter finished 9th out of 18th and was in the middle screen. 9 out of 18th, of course, is the middle.
Mm-hmm.
D finished first. Her name is the highest. And if you overlay Teeny's name with D's name, it is not as high as D's. And no, it is not like centimeters off. It is a noticeable difference. But it's not like below D's name. It is like top T's name reaches the middle of D's name, which makes me think, is this second place for Teeny? You know, is this, a barely missed final tribal council? It seems like super far, but not winning.
Right.
And but if she gets first, okay, well, maybe I was overthinking the height of the name, like just being that high up in general is first place.
Right.
Whereas I'm thinking, no, this is more of like an exact science. Once they did Hunters, I'm like, this is an exact science. Whereas had it just been D's, okay, it's not an exact science.
Right.
Like I could just be overthinking it. But Hunters like gives me like pause, like, okay, no, that was on purpose. That indicated a placement. D's indicated a placement. Hunters indicated a placement. Teeny's indicates placement. At 48, someone's name is in a different spot than all three of them. And let's say Teeny does not win, by the way. Let's say Teeny does get top 5, like makes the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Can we all agree that this is now a pattern and we should, in 48, we have to take it, everyone has to take it seriously, not just me? I'm asking you, like, for real, if Teeny finishes it gets the finale and doesn't win, can we both agree that this is a pattern?
No, I don't. I
you
still
would ignore it?
I still don't see that. Like, to me, this is just like a stylistic choice based on the shot that's being shown.
Do you accept my reality and replace it with your own?
No, I see how you see this. That doesn't mean I agree with it. Like, I can see your reasoning.
This is why we're married.
I have different reasoning.
Could you imagine if I was married to someone who was like, you know, Wesley, you're correct about all your crazy theories. That would be bad. I would go unchecked power.
Yeah.
Mary's keeping me in check. Yeah. I disagree. I think there's a pattern once it's happened a third time. Like 1 time, coincidence, 2 times, 3 times we got a pattern. That's what my point is. I'm saying if it happens, so if let's say Teeny makes the finale and doesn't win, she's my number 1, by the way. Because there's just like everything is going for her with the exception of at the moment. But really, who at the moment is running the game? Like running the game. And we could say is running no at the moment is running the game. There are people who have made things happen, but no one's like, I'm in charge. Like I'm Boston Robin this season and everyone else, nothing like that. So at the moment, power could shift. And Teeny is definitely somebody we're like waiting for her to make her power play and to jump into that power spot, which is available. It's just, you don't want to do too early because then target's on your back.
Yes. Definitely.
So you don't want to force things to happen yet.
That's why she is in a good spot. She's doing what she needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Put your opinion out there of who you want to go, but don't argue. Don't cause a ruckus. That's what I'm trying to say. But she would, I think that right now, there's few people that she could sit next to and say, I played a better game than them right now. But her constant content for no apparent reason makes me think that she will do that eventually.
Teeny has done nothing to earn the amount of content she's gotten from what we observed in the storyline. Andy has earned it at this point. It has been earned for Andy. Teeny's feels unearned at the moment.
Right.
So we'll see how that develops. There are 6 episodes left. The time to break out and become the number one is, I believe, in 2 episodes. This was episode 8. So episode 10 is about the time that if you want to break out and become the power player, that's about the right time.
Right.
I'm not saying that is the only time, I'm saying it's about the right time. But again, we have a couple easy vote offs set up for them with Sam and Kyle.
Right.
So it's after Sam and Kyle. And again, Sam might be that beginning of the power. Yeah. Kyle goes next week, Sam goes after that. I don't know. Well, that's all we got for this week. It's probably our longest winter analysis of the season, but it needed to be because we had to upend our winter rankings.
Yeah.
And we had to explain why.
Times.
And I'm sorry that we did not perfectly explain everybody's path to the end. I was planning on doing that, kind of off track. What else is new?
We can do that when there's less people.
Hopefully you now have this is a good podcast to start from. You could ignore all the previous winter analysis weeks and start with this one to get a good reset on where we're at.
We always had Rachel and Genevieve at the top.
Right. But we've kind of gone through and re-explained our positions on everybody. This is a good podcast, I'm saying, and we're at the end of it anyways. If you're at this point, you already knew this. I'm just saying this is a good podcast for people to be like, where did you get to this conclusion? We'll start at this one. Start with week 8.
Sure.
At the moment. So, all right. Well, we thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.